So welcome everyone, and thank you again for joining us for another Connect and Share on a Friday morning. And may I say Warrami, welcome in Darug language, which is the land in which I present this to you today. And may I pay my respects to all elders past, present and future on the lands that you are meeting with us today. We're going to do a little bit different today. So I'm just looking at who's online. And it's great to see a lot of people that are regulars, as well as a couple of new ones or come in from a bit of a break. So we wanted to have a bit more of a conversation today. It's been one hell of a week. If there's bags under my eyes, there is a reason for it. We have had a lot go on in this week, and I wanted to reach out to everyone and just sort of see how everyone is faring, because obviously you're knee deep in the operations of what's happening in this space and the frequent changes that's come out from the Department of Ed this week, and you're at the core face of that. So can I ask you all to volunteer to speak or tell us what is happening in your space, because I'm really keen to understand how this week has impacted you, if it has or if it hasn't. I need to understand how you are faring as a person, as a human being, as we navigate these challenges. But what has changed? Has anything changed for you in your operations or your direction or your thought process? So I'm going to throw it out to you now and ask you to volunteer, and I really would encourage everyone to try to say something so I can get a good handle on actually what's happening out there in the industry right now. So can I ask anyone to step forward? David, do you want to start? How are you?
Yeah, thanks for that, Laurie. I mean, we've held out as long as, just for everyone, I'm head of outdoor ed for Skeggs Redlands in Sydney. We've held out as long as possible. I'm actually sitting on my empty campus in Jindabyne at the moment, where I would usually have 70 kids running around and a winter program going. We've just had to cancel our Year 11 program, which was planned for first week of next term. And we're highly unlikely to run 8 and 10. So the school exec is looking at everything from the point of view of being quite risk averse. And I'm not saying that as a criticism at all. I'm just saying it as a statement of fact. Because of the current guidelines, when they came out, the decision was pretty much made for us that, well, we're not looking like running anything for the rest of the year, which is seriously disappointing. And we contract out our programs. So I know it has that knock-on effect to our third-party provider as well as our venues. So, I mean, we're certainly disappointed because the kids are missing out. So that's where we're at. We're trying to salvage what we can, and we haven't made a firm decision on our last 2 camps, but we're really now shifting gear to look at 2021.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. I really do appreciate it, David. Probably as expected, unfortunately, but really handy for me to hear that, and I'm sure warming to others that may be in the similar circumstance to yourself. Can I ask, are you okay? How are you going?
Well, if I said I was fine, I'd be lying. Oh, look, it's just, we're used to rolling with the punches. As outdoor editors, we're adaptable, we're flexible, but this is grinding everyone into the ground. And I really feel for the businesses because I also have a business myself and we have no revenue coming in. We are literally getting cancelled left, right and centre. And I really feel for everybody whose businesses are being impacted and whose staff are being impacted. So it is very hard.
Yeah. Thank you again for sharing. Would anyone else like to share where they're up to?
Well, I'm happy to we can have 2 Davids, yeah?
David and David.
Yeah, as you're aware, most of you are aware, I'm a Mexican, so I'm on the other side of the border down south. But we're being affected with some of our customers and future customers by the border closure. So I've got walking tour operators that are hoping to come down into Victoria in October, November, and there's no clarity around what Victoria has to achieve in the way of reducing its COVID numbers before the border will be considered to be open. The other area we're having problems is the open and closing of national parks down here, where the National Parks, Parks Victoria, is not very logical about how it's managing its assets. And they've got big parks near, like the Grampians, still open near Melbourne, and they've closed parks up here at the north of the state, and that makes it difficult for operators to function.
Absolutely. Thank you, David, for sharing, and may I pay my thoughts and prayers with Victoria and Melbourneites at the moment who are going through a horrific time, but hopefully there'll be some horizon that we can get them back outside soon. Anyone else?
Laurie, it's Mel.
Hey Mel, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks.
That's good. Well, for everyone, we're near the border too, but New South Wales and Queensland. And we have one camp booking for the rest of the year. And we've had no camp since the shutdown. But we also do weddings on weekends, so we haven't had any of those either. And we've got 2 weddings left for the year in November, but they'll probably postpone as well. So our business really, like everyone else's, won't start up till for us it's mid-Feb next year. And we're the same as the 2 Davids that spoke. Well, we've actually got no income coming in either. Thank goodness for JobKeeper. And we only took over the business in January, so it was a bad year to buy a new business. But anyway,
welcome to small business.
Yes. Well, you know, we had the holiday park where we did school camps before that near Albury, which is also near the border.
So Mel, can I ask, the camp that you've got booked at the moment, are they Queenslanders or New South Wales?
No, so they're New South Wales, so they're just at Tweed, which is our closest city. And they just recently booked, which was great. But interestingly, we actually had a camp that had cancelled from Queensland, and they were a big camp of 110 kids. They actually called and cancelled for next year as well, in a year's time, because they said we've been directed by our board, and they're Emmanuel, I think they're Catholic, that we can't go to any camps over the border next year. So that was a bit of a worry too, because a lot of our camps, actually more of our camps, come from Queensland because of the Gold Coast and Brisbane.
And do you know why they said that?
No, I mean, she was just ringing from admin and just saying, I'm really sorry, we love coming to your camp and hopefully we can come in 2022, but our board has directed us that we're not to go across the border next year for camps.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Mel. I'm going to look into that and talk to my Queensland counterparts and try to get an understanding on that. So that's great.
That'd be great. Because I did say, is that from your Department of Ed? And she said, no, it's just from our board.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mel. I appreciate that. And watch this space on that one. Helen, you've just put a link in there, honey. What's that one?
Yeah, hi everyone, Helen from Primal Adventures. I had to cancel 3 different groups in the school holidays with 52 kids in the September-October school holidays this week. And so I just wrote a little blog about it, and because it's, it's quite disturbing for the kids and the parents and the rites of passage that the kids aren't getting this year, and it's really hard for them and for us. So I guess I just wanted to kind of put it out there, and we're
therapeutic to get it off your chest as well.
Exactly. So I thought I'd just share it with everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, well done. No, your pleasure. Mark Mulgar, bicycle tours, what's going on?
Let's see. What's going on? Not much with us, similar to you guys. We run bicycle tours, which we schedule, and generally our customers are a lot older than the schools. We're getting around about 60 and higher, the self-funded retirees. But we're probably about to close and cover everything up until March next year. We have our next tour where we have bookings is into South Australia, and we have people scattered all over Australia. We don't know how we can get there in December, or if we can or not. And again, like everybody else, no income. So I'd just like to make a comment though. I get a bit frustrated by big business talking about, like our Canberra airport is complaining that they haven't got anybody travelling and they're about to close down and they need support to keep them going. And you know, no one's talking about our end of town, the micro businesses, and I think that that's something that's really starting to be, frank, pissing me off. But I think that we need to go with solutions. And yeah, I can't help, and I know I've rabbited on about this before, but I can't help but think that South Australia and Tasmania and Western Australia and Northern Territory have got it right in that they've eradicated spread or eliminated transmission, or however you talk about it. And they're allowed to trade. And yeah, Victoria and New South Wales, we need to adopt a similar sort of policy. Now, there's an outbreak in Victoria. That has to come under control. But if we can bring it all under control, because we can't operate in New South Wales with hotspots. Coming to us from hotspots, we can't accept them. We can't go to hotspots, obviously. So with the government managing this stuff with hotspots, you know, it just stops all the business and it stops the confidence and safety that everybody has.
No, thank you for that. And yeah, I'm sure a lot of people feel very similar, and like your business is affected by the border closures. It's it's sad that we've got to actually take that decision to close and be silent till March. Jemima, you've raised your hand. I'd love to hear from you.
Hi, Laurie. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm Jemima. I'm the Managing Director of Coast Life Adventures and also Binderi Outdoor Education Services in Victoria. Obviously, with down in the Sapphire Coast, we were severely affected by the fires, so we lost our adventure season in sort of November, December, January this year, and fortunately we were able to operate for a couple of weeks in Feb before getting shut down mid-March, and we haven't earned a cent really since then. But obviously with the Premier's announcement that's affecting all of us, we're now in a position where I actually, not to be negative, but I actually can't see when that point in time is when they are proactively going to tell us that, sorry, I've got my daughter right next to me.
It's so good.
They're going to tell us that, that term 1 and 2 next year are going to be able to operate. So for the first time, I think as a business, I mean, we've been planning for the worst, hoping for the best the whole time, but reality is starting to really creep in for us. And with no operations pretty much for 12 months now to date, and the likelihood that there's nothing for term 4 and potentially nothing for 1 and 2, the outlook is looking pretty grim. We're still exploring alternative opportunities, but as a journey-based provider, you know, unless we can get to our ACT clients, and try and open some kind of border or opportunity there, then it's not looking the best. But I understand Mark's frustrations before, and I think, Laurie, you've done a fantastic job, I just want to say, with vocalising and putting us out in the media and in front of government as a viable an important profession, all of our little sub-professions into one. So thank you very much for that, because I think now more than ever we need to communicate our plight.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I suppose thank you for sharing, and thank you for your compliments. I think this for me is exceptionally important to get this pulse, and like I say, it's probably nothing I didn't know, but I just wanted it reaffirmed that we are in this position, because it just gives me more ability to keep going and fight for what we need to fight for. But before I go on, Rob, Mid Coast Adventures, what's going on with you guys? Rob, you there? Where are you? I'm trying to find you. There you are.
Yeah.
I can't
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, no, I just wanted to add to what Mel Diffie and the next gentleman said, that we were going to ramp up businesses, well, guided tours and outdoor activities in January. Before even that, we had the droughts and the fires in our areas, and then COVID. So, but what I was wanting to mention, same as what they did, you know, there's basically nothing happening out there, literally zero. But what I wanted to mention on that is that I'm a little bit annoyed at the Destination New South Wales or council sort of marketing people that are actually all fizzed up and say everything's fine, people are traveling and domestic tourism and all this, but because they're going on the amount of looks on their websites, clicks or searches and things, but it's not translating to anything. It might be the casual day trippers, the weekenders, but for those camps or organized businesses that like people here, the bike tours and things like that, it does nothing. You know, unless there's some conversation with them about the actual restrictions and or the triggers to unleash the camps and the corporate groups and things like that. It's not. It'll come to nothing. And you know, I watch the TV every day, and the commentators keep saying, "Well, what is low enough? When is the trigger? Is it 10 people a day? Is it 200 people a day?" So that's just my 10 cents worth. That the people that still in bureaucracy or in council think it's all fine and fuzzy, but there's you know, there's another trigger point to sort of try and ask them to clarify.
Yeah, no, really, really good points, Rob. And I can see Mark saying absolutely, he's seeing it from a Canberra side as well. So no, thank you for contributing that, and certainly more evidence for my backing as well. Would anyone else like to speak? Don't feel pressured, but if you want to, please jump forward. Otherwise, we'll keep going.
Anyone else? Can I just say a couple of little things?
Of course, Kat. How are you?
Yeah, good. How are you? So yeah, I'm Kat from Coast Life Adventures as well. I think the thing is, we have obviously the school side of the business, which is the main income, but then we also have the tourism side and the adventure season. And I think a lot of people, especially in our small area, were like, well, you know, one positive of all of this is there's going to be a lot of domestic travel, obviously because we can't go overseas. But I've actually seen a change in shift even within our area. I mean, even after the fires, everyone within our community was like, come back here. Like everyone was like, you know, we need you now. Whereas there's been such a shift that everyone's like, don't come. We don't want people to come. And I can't sort of see when that's going to change. So there's just, yeah, it's been a bit of a change. Like a lot of our friends that are into hospitality and tourism, that they don't even know what's going to happen over like Christmas and summer. There's a lot of people within our town that doesn't think that we're going to have that summer income. And then we're also then affected by the border controls, the same as yourself, David, because most of our tourism comes from Victoria.
Absolutely. So, Kat, can I just ask and clarify on your points there? People are saying not to come because they're worried about COVID coming into the area, and listening to some of that recommendation from the government saying don't travel into regional areas.
100%, yeah.
Thank you.
And that's even the business owners that will directly be affected by people not coming.
Can I
Yes.
make another comment, please?
Yep, absolutely. Of course, Mark. Jump in.
Yep. Sorry, just turn on the video
Thanks,
again. I can't even see myself today, so I don't know if I'm even there. Yeah, I think that's one of the most valid points, is that when you're going into a community, is that you've got to be welcome. And there is that very much that hesitancy. And I was talking to somebody in Sejuna a couple of weeks ago, and they are very much on outside. When you're looking at tourism within a state, you're always looking at anything within 3 hours of a capital city is a really good place to be, because people will travel there for a weekend. Sejuna is very much a day away from Adelaide, and so they're basically shut down, but they're also not sure whether they want people going there as well. And we're finding that when we talk to other people in other towns. And we've been very conscious about that, is do we want to encourage people to come and go to these places? And we have a group of gentlemen from Newcastle who are very keen to come to Canberra in about 4 weeks' time, but we can't see them being able to come. And also, ethically, we're not sure whether we should be promoting it to come as well. Yeah. And I think that's one of the biggest dilemmas, and that you can't have state and local visitor centres continuing to say, come here, when really the people don't want them to come here. And the health officers are saying, don't go, don't travel. So, very hard.
That's right. Fighting the tide, so to speak. Yeah, thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. And guys, thank you again. I hate starting with such a negative tone, but like I say, this sort of content for me is so important to make sure that I do have the right pulse of what's actually going out there, so I can continue doing what we are doing. And it's certainly hot it up in this last week, and I'll share that with you more later. But can I just go back to the previous slide to just emphasize that I'm sure you all know this, but what you guys do is so important, and it's about enriching our communities there to connect them to nature and give them that health and well-being that's so important right now. We just need the permission to be able to do it. And that's why we're doing what we're doing from a marketing sense, a PR sense, and we are talking to now some key media to get some exposure. So again, I'll fill you more on that in a little bit. But we have a wonderful speaker waiting in the wings. So what I wanted to do though was emphasise to you, and I don't know if you've seen this, but if you are on JobKeeper, and I keep hearing that this is an essential part of our ongoing business continuity, JobKeeper has some changes, and today is a crucial deadline. So if you have new eligible employees that should be registered for JobKeeper for the next round, the 2.0 they're calling, or 2.1, they need to be registered today. So if you're not aware of this, can you please get onto your accountant and make sure that you're onto that, so that you don't miss that opportunity to have your employees paid through this process. That website there is a great source that I found, and it will be in today's newsletter when it comes out. But I don't know whether I'll get the newsletter to you in time to respond to this. So if you can jot that down or take a photo of that screen and jump onto that website, I strongly urge you to get onto that. So let me jump into today's topic. We've got two topics. One is about data and one is about what happened at our AGM. So the first is about data. And I just wanted to put it out there that I'm sure you all have used data in your previous months, years in business, but what have you used and what's worked for you? But more importantly, what do you need now to inform yourself? COVID aside for this point, let's try to park COVID for the moment. What sort of data do you need as businesses to keep making informed decisions for your business, for your activity, for your attraction to your markets? Can I just ask what people have used in the past, or what they're wanting now? Has anyone used the Officer Sport content that's available? hearing cricket, so I'm gathering either we haven't used it or we're not sure what we want. Anyone want to jump in? No? It's always hard on Zoom. I can't read faces. Has anyone ever wanted to understand where the trends were going in their sector, in their particular activity? Is that important to understand?
Laurie, just make one comment on this. You gave a presentation a little while ago, a couple of days ago, and it was very much on what was happening. I think it might have been talking about ACT and where international and domestic travel was. And that was the first time that we'd seen a good graphic that told us that international travel in our area was a bit of a waste of time for us.
Okay, great. Okay.
So, because everybody's saying, yeah, they were all saying international travel is the way to go. That's the way Canberra markets international travel, but really it was domestic. And so it was having an independent look rather than what was being pushed by the marketing area for Visit Canberra or, you know, whatever this area. So that was valuable to us.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. So for those that missed that session, it is available on the YouTube channel, our YouTube channel of that session. So there was 2 videos there on the tourism session that I did, and that was solely focused on tourism data. And I suppose that's what prefaced today's conversation for me, because when I came into this sector, I said, okay, where's our NVS? In tourism, we have a National Visitor Survey, and that certainly helps educate and understand what's actually happening, but more importantly, what we need to do for future. And I found there wasn't a lot of content around for outdoors as a whole sector. And then I discovered Nivi. So Nivi's from the Office of Sport. Are you there, Nivi?
Hello, Laurie.
Hello, thank you. So I reached out to Nivi and said, what have we got access to? I need to understand some content around our sector. And she showed me this thing called Ozplay. And I've asked her to come today to give you guys a bit of an overview on it. Has anyone seen Ozplay? Has anyone played with Ozplay? You're obviously not data nerds like me, so... There's nothing coming up in the chat, Nivi, so I think you're going to show them something brand new. So I might stop sharing my screen here. I'm going to let you share yours. And if you want to just take us through the basics of what Ozplay is all about, that'd be fabulous.
Thank you, Laurie. Hello, everybody. I'm Nivi from the Office of Sport. I'm the Data and Insights Analyst for the Office of Sport, and I must really thank Laurie for her enthusiasm for inviting me and giving me an opportunity to present to all of you, given the incredibly difficult time you're all facing. I feel so bad to talk about data now, given everyone is suffering so much in the business, but it is what it is, and maybe we should utilize this time better to understand what we have, what we already have, so that we can work towards it. So I'm trying to share my, can you just give me a moment? I'm just trying to share my screen and it is not working. Oh yeah, got it. Just 1 second. Can you see my screen? Or am I sharing?
Yeah, certainly can.
Yeah. All right. So as Laurie said, there's not much data available for sports and active recreation. Few years back, we had a couple of surveys done by EBS, but that got redundant and that had to be stopped for some reason. It was called ERAS, and basically the sports sector for the entire Australia and including New South Wales had no data available to give us an indication of what the participation rate is, given the motto of Office of Sport is to increase participation in sports and active recreation. Sports Australia is the federal agency for instance, Officer Sport is a part of the New South Wales government. Sports Australia is a part of the Commonwealth government, and that's a federal agency. And they decided on a federal level, they will create a survey called Cosplay. And I want to emphasize on the word survey because it is an indicator, it is an evidence for us to start planning things, but not take it as hard and fast and this is what it is. So I want to share the link later on the screen, and I will share the links with Laurie as well so that she can pass it on to you. Most of the data is available publicly, and you'll be amazed to see the amount of data that everybody has access to. So this is called, as I said, it's called Cosplay, and they have created a lot of visualizations of the data. The sample size, let me go. As I told you, the methodology, when we look at survey data, we have to take into account the methodology behind the data as well. So I'm trying to give you a story behind the participation data that you're going to see. The survey across Australia is around 20,000 people across Australia. Sorry, just everything takes a while to load, so just hold on. So the survey is across 20,000 adults across Australia and around 3,600 children every year. But for New South Wales, the sample size is pretty small. It's around 5,000 odd adults and close to 1,000 kids for children. And what they do is, based on the survey, they weight the survey data and extrapolate it to give population estimates and participation rates. And when we say participation rates, it's based on the frequency of participation or the duration of participation. So when we look at data, we should be very careful to read behind the story behind the data as well. I'm sorry if I'm going a bit more into detail because I feel a lot of people get fascinated when they see a number, but apparently there is a story behind every single number or graph that you see. So as it's a telephonic survey, it's by landlines and mobile phones. And what Cosplay has done is we have results here, which is broken down by states and territory. And there are downloadable Excel spreadsheets, which I have already downloaded, and I'll share it with you here, which is pretty straightforward, very in a condensed format, which is broken down by participation rate. If you are scared to look at it, I will show you something more exciting later on. As I told you, the participation rate is based on the frequency of participation, especially when it comes to sports and active recreation. So when you look at a table filled with data like this, you've got to be when you're using data, you've got to be very careful as to what the data says. So when most of the time people talk about participation rates once a year, which I think is nonsense, because once a year doesn't give an indicator about the participation, gives a complete sense of participation. So we at Officer Sport report on especially we have to report, we have certain key performance indicators, and we have to report on participation rate through the Treasury, and we report on participations of at least 3 times per week. And one good thing with Cosplay is they don't just look at team sports or organized sports, but they also look at the active recreation sector, which I'm sure you'll be very interested to know about. And as they look at the active recreation sector, the #1 activity is walking, recreational walking, and bushwalking comes under the top 10 activities for adults. I will send you the link for all these again, and you can have a look. Everything is available publicly, and it's very easily accessible. And now let's go into the fun bit of the data part. So let's look at the states and territory participants. So what Australia has done is, because the sample size is so small, they have created, apart from the Excel spreadsheets that they release, and by the way, there are 2 releases of Australia data every year. One happens every calendar year, and the second one happens every financial year. So one happens we had the latest release that happened in April, which gave us an estimate of the participation for the calendar year of 2019. And the next release that is going to be in October, which will tell us about the financial year 1920, where we would really see the impact of COVID on the numbers. So whatever we are seeing so far is all very rosy, and they are very great, and it is all on trend. But we do know that the participation rate is going to drop significantly across sport and active recreation for this year. Australia has created, the team in Sports Off has created some very fun interactive dashboards, which gives a lot of perspective. And we had to keep in mind, the survey doesn't just talk about participation alone. They also look into what are the key motivating factors, key barriers of participation, what the switching behaviors, how loyal they are towards participating in a specific sport or specific activity. So there is a lot of information that comes out of this survey, which is very useful for us. For instance, you would be interested to know money is not a key barrier to participation at all, but it is just people giving the excuse as to, oh, I don't have enough time, or I don't have enough motivation. It's not a priority as the top barrier. So it's more psychological rather than monetary. And most of the time we think, oh, it's money as a barrier to participation, and apparently it is not. And it was interesting to us as an organizer, as being a part of the government, because we always thought, oh, maybe we need to give monetary support, and that's why we started Active Kids and so on. And then we realized, okay, that's just one part of it. That's helping the sector, but there has to be a lot of motivation and more education towards New South Wales public to go out and participate. But of course, this is the wrong year for us, where we are asking people to cut down and everything, and it just goes against the messaging of what my organization is meant to be. So yeah, so we are trying to navigate those challenges, and we have different teams trying to bring in different strategies as to how we can go about it. And trust me, it has been incredibly busy for us, because every single strategy that we make we have to consult New South Wales Health for it. So as much as our challenges doesn't come close to what you all have, but it has been very challenging for us as well. So let me go into the data first. So now again, what Australia has done is they have tried to accumulate. They've looked at, because the sample size is so small for every year, to bring it more into perspective and to bring a ballpark figure for participation. They're looking at the cumulative rate of the data, that is ever since the program started. Australia started in late 2016. So from 2017, we have the full data. So we have roughly 3 years of data, which they have looked together to understand some trends and understand how people are participating and understand the nature of participating. So you have a lot of, sorry, just one second. Let me go into New South Wales. So we can go down by different areas, look at different LGs and break it down and look at the participation rate of adults and children. Again, this says whether they participate once a year. So I wouldn't necessarily be going with it, but rather going by the Excel spreadsheets, but they're very, very interactive and great dashboards to give you a sense of what the rate of population, what's the rate of the population, how people are participating across New South Wales. And it's across Australia, so you can pick New South Wales, you can go to ACT, you can go to Queensland, you can go to whichever state to look at the respective data. And as you can see, and it also gives you the top 10 activities. You can break it down by all demographics, by gender, age. We can also break it down by, the underrepresented group, by Indigenous, disabled, the whole. You can break it down however we want to. And that is, and all those data are available in the Excel spreadsheet if you want to go into the details of the demographics. But if you want to look at it at a very high level, this is a good representation to look at. The price basically gives us the top 10 activities, what the genders are. You can break it down by male, female, respective. If you look at female, of course, walking is the number one, bushwhacking, and you do have a lot of outdoor activities here. So you'd be interested to know there are...
Sorry, Nivi, just on those.
Yeah?
Yeah, so just a quick question on those, because I know everyone's thinking, where's my type of activity? I think I remember you saying there's like 200 odd categories. So we can drill down to climbing, we can drill down to canyoning.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
I will share that as well. Yeah. If you go, I think go back in the website, you can go results by sport, and you can download the data by results by sport. Quickly, I will just show you. I've already open a spreadsheet of all the results, and this is something that I have access to as an internal portal. So you have, it's a big exhaustive list of activities, but you've got to keep in mind, can you see the mixture of the greens and red? So that tells us the margin of error. That means you've got to use them with caution, and generally I would avoid using any data in my in my report which has very high margin of error. If I'm using something, I will contextualize it saying that there's a high margin of error, and this kind of gives you a percentage estimate for calendar year 2019 for New South Wales across the different, this is the participation rate for the participation at least once in the last 12 months across the different activities. And we also have specific reports here, that another dashboard which gives us data by for the top 10 activities, especially for instance walking and recreational. You can look at it and it kind of gives you a more holistic way of what the data says, breaks it down by demographic, breaks it down by the age, gives us a percentage of the population, and also tells us what the market opportunity is and how many people normally. This is not broken down by regions, unfortunately. This is for the entire whole of for Australia, for the whole country. But I would not say, I would take this data into consideration, because it is almost in line to what New South Wales is. So I don't say anything off trend for you do have snapshot by state. So I don't see anything really off trend that goes against the national participation rates. So you can, there are reports, there is extensive data available and more, some analysis and insights around participate by activities as well. So you can go in and have a look at it. So let me go back.
So, Nivi, is it fair to say that this sort of content just gives people a really good pulse on their particular activity or area, and just shows probably trend analysis more than credible insight into what they need to do?
Yes, yes. It gives you more of an indicator, gives you more of a trend. Okay, this is how it is, and this is the age group that we kind of have to target. But I wouldn't say, you should, this is not the holy grail. So you can use it as an estimate, but not as, and basic decisions based on it, but not by, this is the ultimate data, and it is not. I'm just going to be very honest and frank here, but this is the best data source available for us. We have no other data source available for us. Does it answer your question?
So I'm just interested to, no, that's great. I think I'm interested to hear from the guys on the line about what other things they'd like to see. And if you don't think of it now, don't stress. I'd love to hear from you later. But I know that since I spoke to Nivi and I got hold of Laurent from Sport Oz, and we're talking to him about the what did they call it? The Community Perception Monitor, which is very exciting. I think that for us is going to be a great piece when that comes out, because that will give us a little bit more of that qualitative analysis.
Yes. Sports House, Lawrence and Sports House, they're doing some amazing work. So every year they come up with new reports and new analysis, and I really think I'm excited, because now especially we are capturing some relevant information. We did have some input into having some additional questions with regards to the pandemic and how it is affecting their physical activity as well. So I'm really looking forward to some of the reports that's going to come up on Reports Play as well.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for this, and please send me the links and I'll share them, and for everyone I'll make sure that any of these relevant reports that do come out, I will be sharing them amongst the sector via our members newsletters, which come out every week. So thank you, Nivi, really appreciate your time.
Yes,
and
thank you, Laurie.
I might get you, I'll switch screens. No, that's all right, I got it. So thank you. Now, what can you see? Can you see? What can you see? I can't see what I'm seeing. Let me go to there. And let me go from there. Okay, I think we're back, are we? Thanks again, Nivi. And look, you're welcome back anytime. There's some new data. We'd love you to share it with us. And if anyone's not a data nerd like me, you can skip that one, but I'll enjoy it. So thank you so much. Okay, so jumping on to the second topic of today, which is what we went through this week with our AGM. And you would have all received through your members' communications the annual report, and pleased to say your organisation is not only solvent but compliant, and we also have a board which we're really happy to announce. So Martin is our president and has been last year as well. So we've got some great continuity in our leadership there. Jess Warner is our new vice president. We've got Nathan Brown's our continuing secretary, Colin Robinson is our treasurer, Mark Brackenreg, who's going to look after the education portfolio, Kyle Finlay from National Parks and Wildlife, Dr. Lindsay Rees from University of Sydney, Stuart, who's on the line, welcome to the board, Stuart, from Scouts, and Dan McNamara. I don't think he's joined us today, but you've often seen Dan on the line as well, and he's our wonderful ACT representative as well. So really great to have you all on board, and thank you for being part of it. The CEO's report was pretty much a general snapshot of 2 executive officers' results over the years, over the year. And I think the 3 things that really came out for me was it It was about information, connecting the sector a lot more. It was about advocacy, and that really took form thanks to crises. But also we've been able to capitalise that and build from that. And then the third thing is our strategic planning, which for me, it's about what's the infinite gain here, and we need to set up the organisation for a sustainable future and sustainable sector. So a lot of work has gone into that, and amongst everything else. I could give you a bit of a snapshot on all the different things that happened during the year, but what I thought I'd do is just read to you quickly what I put into my report if you hadn't read it. It has indeed been a challenging time for our sector, as has been for many industries. But one thing that has stood out for me, as people were laid off, incomes uncertain, bookings cancelled, and businesses having to recreate processes with COVID in mind, that is that these people walk the walk and talk the talk. The outdoor sector, as indicated in our own organisation's why, is there to build better people, healthier, more resilient, more fulfilled, with skills that they will use in their lives again and again. Well, those people that teach our communities that for a living have been real examples of that and remain the most positive bunch of people that I've had the pleasure of serving during my career to date. Challenges remain for the sector as we get used to living in a COVID world, something that we at Outdoors New South Wales and ACT feel that will impact us for a few years at least. We are privileged to lead such an amazing sector, and now with our strategic intent and subsequent planning, we know that we'll be there for all the challenges the sector faces into the future to help build their capacity so that they can keep doing what they do best, which is enrich communities and leading them to healthier, more fulfilled lives. I think that was just a bit of a summary for me that encapsulated where we're at. Challenges are still ahead of us, but I feel that we are best placed to take advantage of our situation and help you get back to business. And I suppose that's why there's been a lot of work in this last week in the advocacy space through our open letter. I had a look this morning at that open letter, and I got a bit of a shock, but also a very big smile on my face as we'd reached 65,000 people with that open letter. And that's just on the Facebook post. So I haven't looked at the LinkedIn yet, haven't looked at what ACA and CBA have done, but I think that just shows that we've hit the right area with this. Now we've got to gain the traction with the media, which is continuing today and obviously next week as well. We've got some amazing ambassadors on board, which include Tim McCartney-Snape, and Jason, our very own Jason Castrician. Yeah, there's a lot going on in that space. So I'll enjoy keeping you up to date on that, but I really thank you for your comments, your sharing of that open letter. It has been a real base for which to stem from. So we only hope now that we can get that traction far and wide and see that we can have the conversations at the same level as all other industries, and show them that we've got a lot more benefit to bring in the sector. Look, the annual rules were passed, and I'm pleased to say there's no increase on membership. This is not a good time to capitalise on any increase in membership. We had to, obviously, we needed membership because that's what keeps us going, but we kept it at the same level. So, and keep in mind, for those that aren't members, we've still got our epidemic policy in place, which means you don't pay anything till the 30th of November if you do want to join. And you can join just an individual member if that's something that's attainable for you. The subcommittees were approved, so our usual governance and financial ones, but our trail bike one. And hopefully we'll see a lot more of these subcommittees popping up as issues start coming up that we need to address as an organisation. But the trail bike one is really great in the fact that we're looking at strategic placement of how we activate better trail bike trails and work with landholders and get more activity in that space. There is one area that has increased mental health as part of what they do. The strategy. So look, the strategic intent document was released on Tuesday, and if you haven't seen it, please download it from our website. But this is why it's important, because what the strategic intent document does for our organisation is to set why we exist. What are our missions, our values? because then that informs how we go about that. And although we're operating in a strategic plan right now, by looking back at the strategic intent and saying, why do we exist, then helps to inform a review on that strategic plan to make sure that, you know, COVID and bushfires and everything, that we're placing our energies and our capacity in the right spaces. So that is the strategic intent document. So if you've seen it, that's what it looks like, and you can download it now, as I say, off the website. It goes into the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, the threats of the industry and also the organisation. So we're best pressed to look at those opportunities, to look at and building on those strengths, but be aware of what's in front of us. And so that formulated exactly what we need to do as an organisation. It looked at these areas, and I termed this some years ago, but I use it because this is the areas that an association should be tapping into to support their members the best. And that's in marketing. So it's not just marketing to you and preaching to the converted, which is a no-brainer, where we need to talk to the consumers, because the consumers need to know you exist, and the consumers need to understand what benefits this sector brings to them. The advocacy, it's not just looking at one particular area. We touch so many different areas as far as this sector is concerned. So making sure that our advocacy is right across all of those different levels and areas. Information, it's bringing you this knowledge, this gathering of information that the sector can benefit from. It's looking at everything from operation of business right through to your activity. Anything that makes your life easier by providing that information, that's why we're there, and that's how we can support you. Networking goes without saying that a lot of people benefit from networking within the industry, and we've got to provide those opportunities to do that. So you can bounce ideas off each other, and just even the connect and shares, and how we're able to have conversations about what people are up to and feel that you're not alone. Training, skills and knowledge and what you need. We know that as a sector, there's areas that everyone needs to know, and then there's niche areas. So we've got to be across that and understand what's going to be best for you as operators and participants in this sector. Events, not just looking at preaching to converted events, but how do we get consumers to connect with you? What are the opportunities that we can bring as an event that you can capitalize on from your business? Resources, the AAAS is a great example of some of the resources that the sector has and tools that they have, but it's finding those other ones. You know, is it helping you with accreditation? Is it helping with more effective, sustainable ways of operation? We need to look at how we provide you the best resources. And probably most favourite of mine is the mentoring side. I find that mentoring is an underestimated tool where you can balance up someone that is either experienced in the sector or outside the sector, and putting them with someone that's needing some filling gaps of their knowledge and expertise. And what I find is if it's facilitated correctly, magic happens, because it's actually the mentor gets as much from it as the mentoree. And it can be of a youth sense, it could be across ages, it doesn't matter. Whatever participants that join it, there is certainly huge advantages behind mentorship, and I'm hoping to work with you to get something up and running in the next year ahead. So that's pretty much our strategic intent document. So that was released on Tuesday. As I say, that will now inform our board to then go away and review where we're up to with our strategic plan. But yeah, again, we'll keep feeding that content back to you. Is there any questions from anyone on any of the topics that we've talked about today with 1 minute left? How's that? Any questions at all? Jemima, I noticed your comment in there. Did you want me to talk to that?
Sorry, that was just a side note. As we were all talking about bits and pieces, I was just thinking of other, I'm sure you've already thought about all those things, so just raising our profile.
Yes, got it, yep.
Just other ideas.
No, that's great. Thanks for throwing that in there. Very good.
Thanks,
and there's been a few, no worries. There's some great links in there with other data, so that's fabulous. Thank you, Warren, for giving us that. Again, as a data nerd like me, I love looking at all of that. Nivi's put the links in there. Thanks, Nivi. That's great. Yes, David, thanks. Happy hour tonight. Well, when I say tonight, 4 o'clock this afternoon. I'll probably fill you more in on the open letter and where that got to at 4 o'clock if you want to join us. But thank you, everyone. And please, if you haven't seen the open letter, share it out. We need to get some real cut through and traction on it. So it's on our Facebook page. And please share it amongst anyone you think of. Until then, thank you so much for joining us this Friday. We'll see you next Friday, or happy hour at 4 o'clock. Thank you all. Oh, Kat, you there? Where's she gone? No,
she's gone.
Okay. Leslie, do you want to just email her that link? Have you got her email address?
Yeah. Sorry, which one did she want?
She wants a link to the happy hour.
Oh, sorry. Yes. I'll email it to her. No problem.
Wonderful. Sorry, I missed that just as I was leaving.
Oh, yes, I see it now. Cool.
Yeah. Oh, it's hard to scan so quickly.
Cool.
Wonderful. Thanks, Stuart.
All right.
Your first one as a board member.